Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final early childhood series for this year. We will start back in September, and we are super excited about that. We will skip August because our early childhood conference is August 3rd, 4th, and 5th, so we hope you will all join us. This is being recorded, so it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel and our Google site right after this session. So if it's something that you want to share with others, feel free. So our presenter today is Cassandra Melinda. She's one of our very own. She's amazing. She helps us out all the time. She usually presents at the conference. She does these early childhood seminars, and she just has a wealth of knowledge, and I think you're really going to enjoy this today. So she holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Exceptional Education, Early Childhood, and a Master of Arts in Early Childhood Special Education, Neurology of Autism from Prescott College, and has been teaching early childhood education courses for Ashford since 2010. And just a second, I am going to make sure that everybody is muted. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Okay. Sorry, Cassandra. Her primary workload includes early childhood education and early childhood development and differentiated instruction courses. In addition to teaching for Ashford, Cassandra is a full-time preschool special education teacher in an inclusive setting in Tucson, Arizona. Her previous experiences are in both inclusive and self-contained settings where she has supported the development of children with visual and/or hearing impairments, autism, cognitive delays, communication delays, traumatic brain injuries, behavioral and emotional disorders, as well as work with typically developing children. So she has so much background, and we are so thankful to have her here at Ashford. So if you would please move the slide.
Okay.
And this first disclaimer is just telling you that an online degree from Ashford University does not lead to immediate teacher licensure in any state. So I'm going to give you just a few seconds to go through that. Okay, next slide, please. This disclaimer is just saying that any links, pictures, websites, anything that Ashford does not own, they are not responsible for. I'll give you just a second to read that. And Cassandra, the floor is yours, and we are so excited to hear about your experiences.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for taking some time out of your day to attend this presentation. Today I'm going to be discussing mindfulness games and activities that target auditory and visual focus, self-control, mindful movement, and extending kindness. Mindfulness incorporates a lot of different practices and holds a lot of different benefits. So if you're new to mindfulness practices, there's going to be a link at the end of the presentation that'll help provide some helpful resources that you can use to gain more insight as to how to fully integrate mindfulness into your interactions with children. So when I'm introducing mindfulness to children, one of the first games we play is a listening game. So this game challenges children to utilize their auditory skills to focus on just one sound. This can be used as an opening or closing to mindfulness practice, as an opening for group time activities, as a standalone listening game, or as a transition strategy. The children begin by sitting quietly. Doing this before we start the listening game helps them to just tune out any ambient noises. After we listen to the quiet room, I comment on what I heard when the room was quiet, and I'll take a couple of children's comments to see what they heard. The cues that I use for the listening game are to place 1 or 2 fingers on the earlobes to show when they're listening, and when they can no longer hear the sound, I ask them to put their hands in their lap. You can use any cues that you like, whatever works for the kids that you're working with. The important part is that the children are focusing on the sound and then indicating how long they can hear the sound. We repeat the activity 3 times. So I introduce the activity with chimes or a tone bar, and each time the children are challenged to see if they can listen just a little bit longer. Once children have practiced this activity a few times, I change out the instruments, and I'll ask children to notice the differences in the sound. I'll also ask children to reflect on which sounds are easier or harder to listen to for an extended period of time. Here I've included a clip from the Cosmic Kids Zen Den with an example of how she sets up the listening game. We're just going to hear a little bit of it.
It's time to activate our listening. So, keep your hands resting on your knees. Make your back long and strong so you are switched on and ready. Now listen for when you hear the bell. The sound will then fade until it's gone. I want to see how long you can hear the sound of the bell ringing. And when you can't hear it any longer, move your hands from your knees into your lap. Then I'll be able to see how long you could hear the bell and how good your listening was. Ready? Let's take our hands onto our knees. And if you want, you can also close your eyes so you're totally focused on your listening. So, here comes the sound of the bell.
Okay, so I'll just go ahead and stop it there. And she repeats it 3 times. This is a great video to introduce a listening game if you're not sure the way you want to set it up. The children always really love the Cosmic Kids Zen Den, so that's a fun resource to use. The next activity involves visual focus. So visual focus is a really important skill for things like reading, but it's also really important for social thinking concepts and mindful movement. So narrowed visual focus is an essential skill for reading and general attention to detail. But in order for children to be able to visually attend, they need to be able to calm their bodies and hold their gaze. So one activity that I use involves bringing either 2 fingers or 2 thumbs together as close as you can without letting them touch. So we'll go ahead and do the activity together. So to begin, go ahead and shake out your hands and fingers. We're going to take a deep breath in, inhale, and exhale. Now on your next inhale, bring your fingers together and exhale, bringing them as close as you can without letting them touch, and hold. If your fingers touch, that's okay. Just take a breath, reset, and begin again. See how close you can get them together without letting them touch. Focus on that spot, hold, and then release. So go ahead and shake out those hands, blink your eyes. The next activity that I use has a similar focus. So there are 2 yellow dots on the screen. What I do is I create these, I cut them out and I glue them on popsicle sticks. And I hand them to children and I ask children to hold them steady and focus just on the dot. So the very first level of this game, I'm asking them to just focus on the dot for 10 seconds without shifting their gaze. As children master the first stage, then I can move to some tracking activities where I can move the stick from side to side very slowly, or I can hold it on one side or the other of their vision. This is a very challenging skill for children who either struggle with attention or with vision, and it's something that we build on during mindful movement. But this is a really essential skill. We can't expect children to be able to really visually attend if they can't even look at a dot for 10 seconds. So practicing this is a fun activity for them. It's only 10 seconds, and then it's also really beneficial. The next activity is the arms out activity, and that targets peripheral vision. So in this activity, I'm challenging children to extend their vision. Building peripheral vision is an essential part of being able to move mindfully and to safely navigate the environment. So we've already worked on narrowing our visual focus. So now we need to work on expanding our visual focus. So to begin, what I'd like you guys to do is go ahead and extend both arms out in front of you, straight in front of your body, and wiggle your fingers. Look directly in front of you, past your fingers. You can even choose to look at one of the dots if you'd like. Now, what I'd like for you to do is wiggle your fingers and start moving your arms out to the sides as far as you can. Keep your vision focused straight ahead, past where your fingers were. Extend your arms to your sides, holding that forward gaze. Stretch out your arms as far as you can, and when you can no longer see your fingers wiggling, pause and focus. Wiggle a little bit more. If you can't see your fingers yet, move your arms just a tiny bit forward till you can see your fingers. Once you see them, then go ahead and try and move them back and see if you can see your fingers and extend your vision a little bit more. Take a deep breath in, exhale, and release. And then go ahead and shake that out. So what we've done is we've utilized our centered or narrowed visual skills to focus on a fixed point while simultaneously teaching children how to also give attention to the surroundings. And it's a really fun game for the children to practice, and you'll see their eyes shifting side to side. But once they really get that concept of focusing on that central point, they're able to extend their arms further and further back. So the next thing I've included are some self-control breathing exercises. I use breathing exercises all the time with the children in my class. So it's really important for children to be able to settle their bodies. As adults, we're usually able to settle our bodies, take a few deep breaths on our own. But for young children, we really need to teach them how to have these strategies. And it's important for the children to be ready to play all of these different games. So I'm going to show some different examples of some of the breaths we take in the classroom on a daily basis. This is a clip from my circle time prior to beginning a mindful movement activity. So the children selected the snake breath, the heart breath, and the shark breath to do before we started our activity. So the snake breath is the one you'll see first. It begins with hands together at heart center. They're going to take a deep breath in and release with a
breath. Ready?
The next breath is a heart breath. So it begins with 2 fingers at heart center. Deep breath in, trace the top of the heart, and exhale from the top to the bottom point with a sound.
The heart breath.
The last breath I'm going to show here is the shark breath, and that uses a 5-finger hand shape at the forehead. When I initiate this breath for the whole class, I stop everything I'm doing, place my 5 hand at my forehead, and wait for the children to join. And then take the breath, inhale, and exhale with the 5 hand to heart center.
One more. The shark breath. The shark breath.
The 5-finger breath is not shown here, but it starts at the base of the 5 hand. And this is a longer breath, and it's really helpful for children who are working through a big emotion. So that could be a big, excited, excuse me, happy emotion, or it can be a stronger negative emotion. So maybe they're really upset or something has really bothered them. So this is a longer breath. I'm going to go ahead and begin. To begin, we're going to start with our 5 hand. We're going to take our index finger from the base of your thumb, and you're going to trace your hand as you breathe. So we're going to start at the base of the thumb. Inhale, trace up your thumb. Exhale, down. Inhale, trace up. Exhale, trace down. Inhale, trace up. Exhale, trace down. And that continues for the whole hand. So what children will do is they'll trace their hand. If the feeling is not settled, then they can trace back or they can trace the other hand. And they do that until those feelings have settled. So this year I stumbled upon some songs by David Kisser, and I have just loved incorporating them into the mindfulness activities with the kids. This song, Smell the Flower, Blow the Candle Out, has really helped them slow down their breathing. even though I'm giving them these prompts and these cues, some children are still breathing very quickly while we're doing these activities. So playing this ahead of time has been really helpful for kids to just settle in and really focus on slowing down their breathing. They can use this with the cues that are given in the song, with the 5-fingered breath, or with the bubble blowing activity that I'm going to talk about in just a second. So I'm going to let you hear it, and if you want to follow along and do the cues and the breathing, please feel free.
A flower in one hand, a candle in the other. Smell the flower, blow the candle out. Smell the flower, blow the candle out. Smell the flower, blow the candle out. Smell the flower, blow the candle out.
So the song repeats, and then eventually the lyrics fade out. So if you're working with a child who's really struggling to slow down their breathing, I found that this was really effective for all of the kids in my class, even the ones who really enjoy the fast breathing as opposed to slowing down their breath. The next activity is the bubble blowing activity, and this can be used to target positive or negative feelings. Since blowing bubbles and blowing it and catching the bubbles is not the easiest thing for children to do, I tend to use this just to help children let go of feelings that are not helpful for them. So this way they're successful in completing the activity, even if they can't fully blow the bubbles or catch the bubbles. I don't want this to be a frustrating experience. I want it to be very calming. So because I didn't ask anybody to be prepared with bubbles today, we'll just imagine that we have our bubble solution and a bubble wand. Go ahead and dip your wand into your bubble solution. Now target a feeling or thought that you want to let go. This can be a fleeting thought or feeling, or something that's been bothering you for a while. Now take a deep breath in. Slowly exhale by blowing out that thought or feeling. Watch as the bubble fills up, floats away, and pops. Now if you still have pieces of that feeling inside, repeat the process. Target the feeling, deep breath in. Imagine that feeling filling up in your body, and now gently release the feeling by blowing out, filling up the bubble. Watch that feeling float away and pop. I love this activity because it really helps children visualize letting go of the feeling and watching it disappear. You can pair this with the Smell the Flower song or another song that has a slow melody. Pairing the breath with slow music can really help children settle their breathing, calm their bodies, focus on that feeling calmly so that they're then able to work through it and solve the problem. This next activity is mindfulness eating. It's really about taking time to utilize our senses to explore the environment, but it's a really fun way for children to start practicing this. So while we're focusing on food for this activity, being aware of our senses is an important aspect of mindfulness. When targeting food, mindful eating can specifically help children who are picky eaters identify what it is about the food that they may not like. And while this may not encourage them to eat a lot of new foods, it can help them to be open to at least trying and exploring different types of foods. Mindful eating can also help children be more aware of the foods and can help fast eaters slow down a bit. In this clip, the children begin by looking at the food. So what I've done is I've given them a whole baby carrot and a baby carrot cut into quarters so that they can see the outside and they can see the inside. This activity was about 15 minutes long. So what I've done is I've just taken a few clips to highlight some of the questions and comments regarding the appearance of the carrot on the outside and the inside, the scent, the feel of the carrot, the sound, and the taste. So when you're using this activity, something that I like to do is I like to have different posters of the different senses and then take down notes depending on what the kids are saying and getting their feedback, and then we're able to review it later. And also use these types of same questions and observations during actual meal times.
It's cut in half this way. And let's look at the outside of it. What do you guys notice?
There's little white lines.
There's little white lines.
And
There's
the
some of the skin. Some of the skin. What else do you notice about the outside of it? Anything else that you notice about lines? Isabel, what do you see?
It's orange.
You see lines? You know what I see in this one? Mine has a little bit of a crack in it.
Me too. Mine too. Mine too. Not mine.
And smell it.
Smells like a carrot.
It smells like a carrot?
It smells like a carrot.
Anything
Smells
else?
like a peach.
It smells like a peach, so maybe you smell
Smells like
something
a carrot.
sweet. You might smell the sweetness.
Sweet. It smells like a flower.
Like a flower, so you're smelling some of that plant. Is that smooth or rough? You think it's a little bit rough on the inside? It could be. Could have different texture.
Mine is hot.
Yours is hot. If you Does your carrot make any sounds? With whatever bite you're on? What sounds did it make?
Crunchy.
It was a crunchy sound?
A biting sound.
A biting sound?
It made a carrots are noisy.
A crunchy, noisy sound? Another bite. Listen to your first bite carefully. Now listen to your second and third bites. Keep listening. How does that taste?
Good. It's like
Santos, what were you going to say?
doesn't take nothing.
It doesn't really have that much of a taste.
Good. It tastes like a carrot.
What flavors do you taste? Does it taste salty? Does it taste sweet?
Salty. That's like juicy.
Juicy? Does the juice in the carrot?
Okay, so all of those different types of observations and questions can be used during any meal time. It could be used as a standalone activity. It's a really popular activity with the children. And I notice that they then start eating more and they're eating slowly, and it also can prompt a lot of really great conversations during meal times. So this next activity is about emotional awareness, and I call it the emotion parade. This is a fun game that helps children act out emotions and identify where they feel them in their body. We work on this to help children identify the feelings that they get when they have different emotions. We all process emotions differently and hold emotions differently in parts of our body. Some people feel a tightness in their neck when they're stressed, and other people might feel it more in their stomach. I think it's really helpful to pair this activity with a book about feelings. So after reading the book and having a brief discussion, invite the children to stand up, pick some varying emotions from the book, give some context to create that feeling, either from the book or from a familiar example, and move around the room together, displaying that feeling for about 15 seconds. Call for the children to freeze, and then ask them to show where they feel that feeling. So we'll have children move around, freeze, and maybe they point to their stomach, maybe they point to their heart, maybe they point to their shoulders. We reset by taking a deep breath, letting go of that feeling, getting back to a calm state, and then select the next feeling. Once the children get the hang of this game, let the children then lead by selecting a feeling and sharing an example of when they feel that feeling. So teach them to use I messages when it's their turn to lead. So the child might pick excited as a feeling he or she wants to act out. So prompt the child with the phrase, I feel excited when. So the child will repeat that phrase, fill in the blank, and then as a group, I'll use the phrase, when I feel excited, I look like this. We begin to move around the room. Then we call for everyone to freeze and have the children point to where they feel that feeling. Finally, you just want to remember to always reset before moving on to the next feeling. So most of the time when I am asking children to reset, we've just picked whatever breath we want to use, and we take that one deep breath. I'll look for calm bodies, a relaxed state, and then we pick the next one. A similar activity that I use involves listening and moving to music. So play some short clips of different types of music and ask the children how it made them feel. you can then ask them to show you where they have that feeling in your body. If you have larger groups of children and don't have time for everyone to share, you can set up feeling stations where the children go to identify the feeling that they had listening to the music. So you might have some areas set up with feelings related to being happy, another area with feelings related to being sad or upset, maybe an area where children have uneasy feelings, and you have those designated spaces, play the music, the children move to those areas. When the music stops, they then can share by pointing to where they have those feelings. In between each session, then you can just have the children gather in a specific location to reset and then play the next clip. And so what we're really helping children do is understand where they have these feelings so that they can become familiar with when their body tenses up like this, or when their body starts to act like this or look like this, that's an indication that their feelings are changing. And it just brings a little bit more awareness so that they're able to identify how their feelings are changing and then make adjustments to that based on what they need. So now we're on to movement games. These are my absolute favorite. Before I begin any movement game, I have the children reset to a calm state. I say that all the time in my class. Depending on the activity, you might want to prepare them with a visual focus activity, an auditory focus activity, or some breathing activities that correspond with what you're going to do. This clip will show the children practicing for some self-control movement exercises that they will be doing as part of a whole group moving around. So we prepared for this activity by activating our auditory focus with the listening game and taking a few deep breaths. And then to begin, I'm having the children practice this song and this movement in one space. So this helps me to see how much control they have when they're in a designated space and their ability to follow the cues and the directions. And then I can also reinforce the expectations before we start moving around a lot more. I can settle down slower. I can settle down slower. I can settle, I can settle down. I can crank it up a little bit faster. I can crank it up. Faster. I can crank it up. I can settle down, breath. I can settle down. I can settle down. So once the children have shown that they have the control and we practice the activity in the designated space, then we begin to move around the room. My rules for mindful movement are that we stay within the circle time space, which is mostly on the carpet, and the goal is to be able to move in the space with control, which means that our bodies should not touch anyone else's bodies. If we accidentally bump into someone or lose focus, we need to leave the carpet area and reset before returning. The reset can be as short as one breath, or it could be a few breaths. For children who want to bump into kids on purpose, I invite them to sit and watch the game until they're ready to participate as part of the group. Since bumping into other kids causes both parties to need to exit and reset, I will ask the children who are repeatedly bumping into other kids or teachers to go ahead and take a break for the duration of the song, and somebody sits there with them and helps them breathe if they want that support. Other times children really do just want to exit and be able to watch, and that's okay too. As children practice mindful movement and self-control activities, what I've noticed is some children with really high energy choose to sit out or excuse themselves during the faster paced songs. Since their movement and energy causes their friends to also have to exit and reset if they bump into them, what they do is they choose to sit out to avoid interrupting their friends' learning. Now, this is really exciting for me because it's showing that they're already aware of their level of self-control and that they have an awareness also of the group plan, that they care about the success of their peers, and they're making a choice that's beneficial for them and then also for their peers. And that's really what we're trying to teach children, is to monitor their ability to control their bodies and their movements and their thoughts and feelings, and then be able to make whatever adjustments they need to make so that they can be successful, and then also so that the people around them can be successful. So here we're gonna see some clips of the children moving around. And you'll see some children needing to exit at times.
When it's my turn to go, you know that I go.
Fast, fast, fast. Fast, fast, fast. Here I go. Stop, we're go.
Put it on hold, I've got self-control. Put it on hold, I've got self-control. Put it on hold, I've got self-control. Put it on hold, I got self-control.
So the children are needing to keep some space between themselves, and when the children bump into somebody, if it's accidental, they just take a step out, they take a breath, and they rejoin the group. So depending on the type of mindful movement activity that you're using, you can use props to start combining some mindfulness skills. So in the previous clip, you're seeing the children just navigating the space. They are using some instruments as props, but for the most part, that skill is all about controlling their bodies in that designated space. But adding props can be a great way to challenge children to use their peripheral and centrally focused vision while moving in a designated space. So in the previous clip, the children were using egg shakers. I've also used rhythm sticks in the past, but with really small groups. I prefer smaller handheld instruments like shakers or bells during uncoordinated movement activities for safety reasons. But you can change that up however you'd like. You can also change the type of movement by asking children to move like different animals or to use a specific type of movement during the activity. Another way to further challenge children is by changing the space. You can add obstacles or more boundaries, and that can be a fun way to challenge children to move mindfully in a given space. I do want to point out that moving mindfully does not always mean moving slowly. Moving mindfully is about having control over your body, knowing where other people and other obstacles are in space. And it's important to draw attention to how we feel while we're moving at different speeds and under different circumstances. Something else to consider is how our individual feelings or perceptions about movement may differ from other adults and children. While it may be easier for me to feel in control while moving slowly, a child who has difficult time with slower movement, who has a naturally faster pace, it might have more difficulty during the slower movement activities, and then may feel as a result that he or she has more control when he or she's able to move faster. So here you're going to see some different examples of us utilizing props. I like to pair props from the stories that we read during the activities. So the first one you'll see is the children are balancing a fake ice cream on an ice cream cone, and then a fake piece of pizza on a plate, and then the one in this picture is the children have a little dinosaur on a spoon. And so with all of these different activities, the rules remain the same. The children need to stay within the designated space, follow the group plan. If they bump into anybody, if something falls, they need to reset, gather their focus, and then come back and join the group. Oh, one hit. Focus on that cone. Just one hand, but you can't hold on to the pizza. Everybody is really working hard to not touch anybody else's body, to be aware of where your friends are. Oh, okay, go ahead. And
Mine is a baby ball.
As he grew, the horns did too, but always stayed.
Focus on where we're going,
There
on
was
our
one
spoon.
on each eye.
We're gonna focus and
Always know
This is the pioneer house.
this is the choice. It is. Focus in, but still look around. Okay? Roberto, take a breath.
Yeah, and then come back in instead of back in.
Put your dinosaur on,
And then come back in.
and then join the group again. Amelia, step out, take that breath. Careful with the stick is from this. Twist your tail around. Twist your tail. And to eat your leg. Wait, my turn. Ready to take your rest? Take your rest.
Everybody, Zoe. Zoe, rest.
Yeah, they have to also go underneath. Yeah, okay, that will make things easier. Like a turtle. Super low.
You really want to
Carefully, I was a little bit fast, somebody might not.
I can keep it steady.
If it feels easy when you're doing it. When you're going slow, you try not making it.
I can settle, I can settle,
I can settle down. I can settle, I can settle. I can settle,
I can settle, I can settle.
So the children are really just having a lot of different activities and opportunities to practice moving carefully, moving slowly, sometimes moving quickly, but to also manage that space. The next activities I'm going to talk about involve extending kindness. And extending kindness is all about being kind to ourselves and kind to others. In this image, the children are passing a beanbag. So this was after one of our movement activities. So to prepare for this activity, I set up what I'm asking the children to do. So they're going to pass a beanbag to whoever is next to them, and they're going to either share a smile or say a kind phrase. So to prepare for this activity, I give them the phrase that they can say. So for example, one of the phrases we commonly use is, I wish you happiness. So the children can choose to use this phrase and smile, or they could share another form of kindness, whether that's a smile or an extension of a personal kindness, an individualized kindness. For young children, it's really challenging sometimes for them to come up with an individual kindness. So having a phrase that they can say or a few phrases that they can choose from is really helpful. We also play this game in circle time, passing a beanbag around or rolling a ball. Children say the name of the child they want to pass it to, and then say something kind. At the beginning of the year, this is a great way to teach names and teach children how to welcome their peers to the class. So they could call out a name and say, welcome to class, and then keep passing until everyone has had a turn. This next kindness game is a play on who's missing. So I select a child to hide under a sheet, and I give a kindness clue to see if children can guess who is hiding. In my class, I use a series of books called The Best Me I Can Be, and each book targets a different pro-social skill. So I will use one of those skills that we've targeted and discussed to help me describe who is under the sheet. So for example, I might say, this child is a leader. She showed this today by holding the door for the class when we came in. Or, this child is responsible. He showed this today by helping clean up the art area. I try to be very specific to target the actions that the children would have seen on that specific day. And I continue giving clues until the children can guess who is hiding. This helps children to see all of their peers as important members of the classroom, which is particularly important for children who may struggle to be part of that classroom community. It also shows children that I'm actively noticing the positive behaviors that they're exhibiting in the classroom. I'm being careful not to say things like, I like that this child held the door for the group. Instead, I'm focusing on the actions that pair with the pro-social behavior that we've talked about. So this child demonstrated this characteristic by doing this action. And it just makes it more clear and more meaningful for the children. Now, I do have the kids lead the game, and it's difficult for them to target the actions that align with a specific pro-social behavior. So I mostly just follow their lead as long as their descriptions remain positive. The 4 to 5-year-olds who are headed towards kindergarten, a lot of times they're able to get the hang of this game towards the end of the school year. But at the beginning, what I'm really wanting them to do is practice saying kind words and identifying the positive attributes of their peers. Extending kindness games are great because they can be easily integrated into the daily routine. They can be used as part of greeting and departure rituals. During morning circle time, children can all pass a kind message to the person sitting next to them. And again, this could be something that you designate, or it could be something that they come up with on their own. The children can also select a peer's picture or name card at random and then say something kind, smile, or invite that child to play. You can have a basket with children's names that children go to throughout the day. They can pull out a random name and then extend kindness to that particular child, perhaps by inviting them to play or sharing something. And this can also be a great way to help children be excited about finding new play partners. As part of the daily ritual, children can also extend kindness to themselves with a self-hug and positive affirmation. Adults can model using positive affirmations at the beginning of the day to set a goal or intention for the class. So as a group, children and adults can vote on an intention they want to set for the day. Take a deep breath, give the self-hug, and state the affirmation as a group. So perhaps the affirmation for the day would be, today I will try a new activity. And that might be something if a lot of children are stuck in specific place situations or they're not trying a lot of new activities, that might be an intention that you want to set. Or if you want to focus on kindness, you could target kindness by taking the deep breath, giving the self-hug, and saying together, today I will be kind to others by, and then remembering to state the specific action that you're targeting. So if you want to target sharing, you can target sharing. If we just say we're going to practice kindness, there's sort of a drop off there. So we want to give the children the specific actions that we're looking for. And that way throughout the day, you can check in with them and reinforce that, or you can notice that throughout the day and possibly use that as part of the Who's Missing game or another type of kindness awareness activity. The self-hug is really great because it can be helpful for children who are missing a parent during the day. So we're teaching children how to identify those feelings, using those I messages. When they're bringing that all together, we need to have some sort of resolution for them. And sometimes taking a breath and blowing bubbles, sometimes that's not enough, especially if a child's missing a parent and they're very sad. So sometimes giving them the self-hug and pairing that with an I love you, an extension of an I love you to the parent that they miss, or an I am love statement. So breathing together, giving the hug, the child says, I love my mom and dad, or I love my grandma, and then shares that to the world. Or I am loved by my mom and I love my mom. So we're giving them a way to help self-soothe. As part of kindness practices, you can even extend kindness challenges for children to show kindness to, let's say, 3 friends throughout the day by sharing, helping clean up, and playing with someone new. So you might be looking for those 3 things from every child in the class, and then you can just check in with them periodically and see how they're progressing with that child. As long as the children are being approached positively with this, this can be a really effective way for redirecting behaviors and reinforcing positive behaviors. So if you see a situation starting to emerge that you know most likely isn't going to end well, you can interject yourself there and say, hey, I was wondering, who have you shared with today? Are you going to share with this child here? And then honoring that child's response. If the child says no, we don't want to force the child to do that. Okay, well then who are you going to share with? And then redirecting the child to their other peer. Well, I want to thank everyone for attending the presentation. I hope you found the information helpful. At the bottom of the slide, I included a link to the webpage that I discussed earlier, and it has additional resources that you can use for mindfulness practice. There's a full curriculum available there, as well as different video clips and other bits and pieces of mindfulness practice. There's some recommended books, yoga posters and guides, so please feel free to check that out. It is CassandraMelendez.weebly.com. And at this time, if anybody has any questions or comments, or anything they'd like to share, please feel free.
Cassandra, I see lots of great messages going on in the chat. I'm not sure if you have opened that and can see that. Lots of people liking your techniques, if you want to open that. While she's doing that, I'm adding our YouTube channel for early childhood. If you want to go there, that's where we house all of our presentations, and I'll let you go ahead and address those.
Okay. I'm looking for it. Let me see if I move this down, if I can see it. There we go. All right. Okay. Yes, the modeling for language and communication differences is really important. I have children who are deaf and hard of hearing, so using specific phrases, and then also having the option for extending kindness and using the I feel messages to be differentiated based on their language needs is really helpful. So you can simplify it to 1 or 2 words. It could be feel sad, feel angry, but also having them being able to receptively understand that they can just show you where they're having those feelings can be really helpful. So when we're teaching the children to identify where they feel that feeling, and the more you get to know those children as well. So if the child's pointing at their stomach and giving you whatever type of expression, you might say, oh, you're feeling angry, or you might notice that that's where they point to when they're feeling uneasy or anxious. And so then you're able to start giving them that language. So the more you get to know the children, the easier it will be to modify that based on their specific linguistic skills, comprehension, and all of those different things. Let me see. I also will use pictures. So I use a lot of picture symbols and vocabulary cards so that children can indicate what they're feeling, and they can go to a board and they can point. So we're using lots of different strategies. I do have children who are dual language learners. I have pre-verbal children and nonverbal children. So for them to be able to indicate how they're feeling is important, but also having the other peer, if you have peers who have that linguistic skill, have the comprehension, for them to be able to reflect on the way the other child looks, their appearance, if they look really happy or overly excited, or maybe they look like they're very upset, and then having them work together. For impulsive children, the mindfulness activities, the movement, is sometimes the best way to reach them. Sometimes doing all the breathing activities are really trying activities for them, but once they're able to get into the movement, then you see those skills just start popping out, especially when you're asking them to exit to reset. Then they're using that breath because they want to get back in to do the movement activities, and they want to have fun doing it. And a lot of times with impulsive children, those are the kids who move faster, naturally, and so they want to show how agile they are and able to really manage that space. So that is a really beneficial strategy that I use for children who have a lot of impulse control challenges, for them to really practice the movement parts. And the breathing parts then I sort of encourage as a side piece. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. A lot of good feedback. I appreciate it. Okay.
So that was amazing. Before we started the presentation, we were actually talking about her school starting back in the fall and some things that they're talking about. So teachers are starting to get ready for the new year, and this is something that you could really do, especially with a smaller classroom, depending on how your day is going to go. So thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, our ECE conference will be August 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Please stay tuned. We have amazing presenters and sessions to bring to you. So thank you again, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.